democracy to the extent we can. But that's it. Let people live the way they want to. We should certainly not be promoting or supporting dictatorships. And I think that that's much less of a problem now than it was, say, 10 years ago. And that is our promoting such things.
Annette's on the phone. Go ahead, Annette.
Hi. Well, I basically want to be very brief in saying that I think we're suffering from political correctness. I think that I would be glad to give up some of my civil liberties at this point to be taken off a plane, make sure the plane is safe. I don't condone anything that's been done as far as terrorizing people that live here. But, you know, if you were to ask the people that died, would they have given up a little bit of their civil liberties so that wouldn't happen? I'm sure every one of them would have said they would. I don't think it's out of anybody's way, whether you are Arabic or Hispanic, to be taken off a plane. I would do it gladly, and people should stop whining, is basically what they're doing. And stop being an individual, because right now you're not. You're just one United States.
Congressman, are you anticipating a fight over that necessarily, or do you feel like most Americans do feel that way?
Well, I think that the caller is mixing up two things. Safety on airplanes is not a civil liberties issue. We have to be very careful not to sacrifice our civil liberties. There will be calls, I'm sure, to sacrifice our civil liberties, to sacrifice due process of law, as there were during the fight against communism. And that we have to be very careful about and not surrender to. Safety on airplanes, going through more rigorous screening to get on an airplane and so forth, by all means, that's not a civil liberties question. But we should not, if we allow our society in the name of fighting terrorism or in the name 10 years ago of fighting communism to surrender our civil liberties, we are giving a great victory to the enemies of liberty. And after all, why this country is founded on liberty, it's to promote liberty, and that's one of our great aspirations and reasons for being. And we should not permit those unspeakable people who don't believe in liberty to cause us to give up some of it.
Teal in the audience.
I'd just like to make a point to all the Americans that feel they need to discriminate against, like, my fellow Americans over here and all the people of different ethnicities in our country that are Americans. I want to say that the people that have been lost in those two towers were not just white people with blonde hair and blue eyes. They were of all different nations. They were people just like you and me with different colored skin. And they were lost too. They feel the pain. And I just want to say that those people that feel they need to discriminate them need to stop, because they're hurt just as much as we are, and that's not the solution.
A couple of more emails here. Milton in Los Angeles says we need a meaningful dialogue to try to understand why people would resort to such terrible actions. Retaliation does not feel like the proper answer. Christine in Illinois, my husband is in the Army Reserves and I support him in our country. The people that did this crime must pay. United we stand. God bless the USA. Let me go up to the audience here quickly.
Zarika, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to question my concern basically to the general. Is it fair for them to point their finger to Bin Laden not really knowing if he did it, because it's causing all these emotions? And people like my sister, she lives in Baltimore. She's in a Muslim Arab school, and they have been people have been harassing them, media has put a lot of attention on them, and no one really knows. They don't have any hard evidence on to who has done it. So now
let's clarify that, because I think that we must, Congressman, since the president came out and named Osama bin Laden as the prime suspect today.
Well, I'm not in law enforcement, but I am told they have very hard evidence as to who did it, and I think we have to face reality. And the reality is there are a group of related terrorist groups out there, most of whom espouse a certain extremist brand of Muslim fundamentalism. They are not representative of 98% or 99% of Muslims in the world. And we have to fight the people who have declared war on us, but we also have to make clear that the people who are Muslims or Arabs, but who are not part of these terrorist groups, are our friends. They are our fellow citizens, and they're not to be equated just because they share the same skin color or the same cultural background or not even the same religion, because this fundamentalist brand of Islam is not the same as most Muslims who believe in peace. So you have to educate people that they're not the same, but at the same time you can't turn you can't ignore the facts. of who the enemy is. A small group of people, but we have a pretty good idea who they are, and we have to make sure that we concentrate on them and differentiate them from all the Muslims and the Arabs and other people who are not them. And that's what we have to educate our people on.
Magdi Mohammed want to respond?
I just have a quick question for the congressman. You said that the terrorists made no specific demands, yet if I recall correctly from my Gulf War history, Osama bin Laden, assuming he is the perpetrator, said that the reason he's mad at us is because we have American troops in Saudi Arabia, which he considers Islamic Holy Land. Could you just comment on that briefly?
Well, he can say what he wants, and I don't. But the fact, well, first of all, it's 10 years ago if he said that. But they made no demands on us in the last 10 years that I know of, or recently. I'm sure they have grievances. But the point is, they didn't say, remove your troops from Saudi Arabia, or do this, or do that, or else we will. They simply attacked us and over a period of time. Now, the United States has interests in various places in the world. We have interests in helping out friends. Yeah, if the United States were totally isolationist and did nothing abroad, maybe they wouldn't oppose us. Maybe. But on the other hand, we have the right to do what we democratically decide to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on others. Now, we don't have a lot of troops in Saudi Arabia. I don't know how many we have there now, but they're there. I'm not even sure we have any troops in Saudi Arabia, but if we do, they're there at the invitation of the Saudi government for whatever purpose. And for some terrorist to come along and say he has decided that he's going to attack the United States because he doesn't like what we're doing in connection with Saudi Arabia, well, if he decides to attack us, that makes him our enemy.
Mohammed?
Previously, Congressman, you brought up the issue of the billions of dollars spent on intelligence and spy satellites. But if spy satellites can pinpoint any license plate number of car from anywhere around the world, why can't those spy satellites locate the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden?
Well, I'm not a technical military expert, but the fact is, our satellites can photograph things on the ground. As you say, they can spy the license plate number. They can intercept electronic communications. But if you don't travel with license plates, if you travel with a hood over your head and don't, period, if you don't use electronic communications, you communicate in writing, very difficult. We clearly need more human intelligence.
Let me go up to the newsroom here quickly to Miles O'Brien. I think Miles is standing by there, and he's been keeping track of aviation around the country and, of course, the changes that have been made in aviation security. We have a number of people in the audience, by the way, who are afraid to fly right now and who have changed their plans. And we'll talk to them in a few moments. But give us an overview, if you will, Miles, of what's going on in the country right now.
Well, Bobby, I don't know if you can see this very well with the glare. Maybe we can get a close-up. But this is basically a nearly real-time image of what the aviation picture in the country looks like right about now. And what it is showing you is a very, very crowded sky. Look at all these aircraft. There are more than 4,000 aircraft over the United States already. The system is pretty much back to where it would be on a normal day. And I guess what that tells you is things can get back to normal kind of quickly. Of course, normalcy is a relative thing. We also don't know how many people are on board all these planes. Take a look at just the Northeast, if you will. You get a sense. Every one of those blue dots indicates one plane that is in flight. Not all commercial aircraft, but many of them commercial, some of them chartered, some of them general aviation with instrument ratings. I think that the concerns are real. I think some of the security issues have to be addressed, and I'm not sure that the FAA has addressed them all with these emergency restrictions.
A couple of folks in the audience with concerns or questions. Go ahead, Christy.
I mean, I live in Germany and I have to go back tomorrow. But I really think, there's no other way, but I have to fly. But I don't think that I'm going to come back for a while because of that reason. And I'm going to wait till the security standard in America is the same as in Europe, so that I feel comfortable flying again.
You also had a question for the General, and as I understand it, he has joined Miles now. General Wesley Clark is up there, former NATO commander. I'll take your question in just a second for the General on that, but let me have you put some strategic perspective, General, if you will, on the news that we got in the past hour or two that Iran has now closed its border with Afghanistan.
Well, I think it's a domestic issue for Iran, really. They don't want any more refugees in there. I wouldn't view it as either support or rejection of the United States, particularly. I think it's just something they're trying to do to protect themselves.
I know you're standing in front of the map there. If you could give us a little bit of an overview of that area and talk about it in terms of military strategy, if and when it comes to that.
Well, if it comes to military operations in this area, of course, what you have is the country of Afghanistan, which is landlocked. And this is ruled by the Taliban movement, except for a small portion of it, which is still where they're still fighting. And the thinking is that the Taliban may be supporting Osama bin Laden. And we don't know precisely where he might be in this area. But it is a landlocked area. It's several hundred miles from access from the sea. It's difficult terrain. There's 26 million people there. They've been through 22 years of civil war. They're impoverished. They've always been fractious, split into tribal groups, resistant to outside presence, and that's even more the case today. So it's a very tough part of the world.
Question from Christian in the audience.
General, do you think that there are going to be any European countries be involved in any military strikes or operations?
Well, I don't know about the military strikes because, obviously that will be done if and when it makes sense, if there's a target, if it's best done. But, this is an operation that's directed against a terrorist network. We're talking not about airfields and bunkers and factories. We're talking about groups of individuals who have perpetrated a terrible act on the United States, several acts on the United States, and are a threat to the rest of the world. So we're talking about something that's best dealt with on a face-to-face basis. We'd like European nations and Arab nations and Asian nations and everywhere around the world the cooperation from the local police, the national police, the information agencies. We need to really run these cells out of business wherever they are, in South America, in Europe, in Asia, person by person, detain the people, interrogate them, investigate them, backtrack the information, find out who else is out there, and take this network apart and run it back to its source. And ideally, we'd like to bring these people into justice, put them on trial for this terrible act of murder, and let justice take its course.
Question from Cameron here, and this may be your last one, but we'll say, go ahead, Cameron.
I have two things to say. The first one is a comment towards the congressman. My sister is one of the people who is not able to get back into her apartment. She lives 2 buildings away from the Trade Center. She watched the entire thing happen from her bedroom window. And you said earlier that you were going to try and set up housing for those people, and I beg you to please do that because she is homeless. She is a refugee right now. She has nowhere to go. She only has the clothes on her back. So,
well, as I said, I put in a call to the White House this morning, and we're going to be talking to the governor and the mayor in the next day about trying to see if it makes sense to open up Governor's Island and to see how long it'll take to get that available. They have to, the facilities there are mothballed, to see how long it'll take to unmothball them to get the ferry service running there. And if that's a matter of a couple of days or a couple of weeks, if it's a couple of days, maybe we can do that. If it's a few weeks, we need something else, obviously.
All right.
But we're working on this now.
All right, thank you. And the second thing I have to say is for the general. It's a question. What way do you think it would be most effective to go into Afghanistan, considering they're not a pushover country, as was illustrated when the Soviet Union invaded them and lost over 100,000 men? Ground war won't work, of course. And I think we're technologically advanced to really keep the body count low. I'm just asking, how are we going to do this? What's the best way?
We got about 15 seconds for that, General.
There are many different ways. The best way is for the Taliban to arrest Osama bin Laden and turn him over to the world community for justice.
General Clark, thank you very much. Miles, thank you. And Congressman Adler, we appreciate you being with us for the last couple of hours. Our audience, I thank you all very much for being here today. Wonderful comments, insightful questions. And we will be here again tomorrow at a slightly different time from 3 to 5. p.m. tomorrow afternoon, another special edition of Talkback Live. And we hope that you will join us then as America Speaks Out. We will be going to Aaron Brown now in New York for the latest on what's going on. Thank you for joining us.